what are we cooking today? Or better yet, what's for lunch? For those of you who don't know me yet, I'm Nadia Frienebecker, and this is Nadia Cooks. Today's a very special day. I'm talking to Leo Campos, our resident in the podcast, Sonia, Podkameni Brown, and Shawn Brown. Shawn is the founder of Samba 360, a very dear charity to my heart. Shawn and Sonia help children and anyone who have financial disadvantages by bringing them sports equipment and opportunities in the U.S. and everywhere else in the world. I know they've been in Brazil, of course, many places, but also in South America too. And today we're here to talk about Jewish traditions. I am not Jewish, but I would love to learn more. It's very ignorant of my part. I'm sorry for not knowing more than I do. I know very little. I know the high holidays are coming up, and I believe everyone should learn about it. And being a foodie, I love everything that the Jewish traditions have about the holidays. And now when honey and apples for the New Year's, but then later for Chanukah and Hanukkah, the potato patties, I love them at all. I love rugelach, I love everything. But Leo was talking with me before and how we also love all the falafels and the pita bread. All the snacks, the Jewish snacks are very healthy for you. So with the word, my guest, Sonia and Leo, if you want to start, the new year coming up is it's September 19th to the 20th of 2020. But in the Jewish New Year, that will be year 5000.
5081.
5081. Okay. I thought we were.
No, I'm sorry. 5781. I'm so sorry. 5781. So that's a special year. And it's a very special holiday. It's like the time of the holidays, 3 holidays that happen. 3 or 4, actually, back to back. It's Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippor, Sukkot, and Simchat Torah, which is the celebration of the Torah. So, which we can get there.
It's like combining the Champions League final with the World Cup final with the Libertadores final in the same week. It's amazing.
Wait. And Copa do Brasil, because that's more important than the Brazilian Cup. Okay,
exactly. Yeah.
So, Leo, you were telling me about the Shabbat dinners. Right, that sometimes, so Sonia and Shawn, so Leo was telling me that sometimes he was hired to be a chef for many Shabbat dinners. And Leo, go ahead and tell me more, because I said, I thought they were very simple. You said, no, sometimes they're very elaborate and you have a ton of guests over.
Very, very symbolic. I think what's the nicest, is like the symbolism that they put in the dinner, But it's the Shabbat dinner is all the holy festivals and the Rosh Hashanah. I think there's a lot of symbolism in the food, I find it's quite comfort food, I don't see as much as sophistication.
It's not high cuisine.
It's not a high cuisine, but it's a nice moments, a nice celebration where people are together. And there's a lot of moments and traditions, even weekly in the Shabbat, where family comes together, and they eat like food that's, can be like a roasted chicken, potato vegetables, chicken soup.
So that's the traditional Shabbat dinner. That's exactly that, Leo. You nail on the head. And
on the chicken.
No, not on the chicken. But
you use the head.
But I think in essence, it's, as you were saying, it's the symbolism, especially nowadays in such a crazy world that we live. It's the time that you actually prepare and you stop. And typically you have white cloth on the table, fresh flowers, and you have the traditional, the challah, which is the bread, the braided bread, which in Shabbat is braided and in Rosh Hashanah is round. Mm-hmm. So that's a distinction. In Rosh Hashanah specifically, the challah is round to represent the symbolism. It's eternal cycle of life because it's the new year. But Shabbat, it's a very special time that we should take more, especially in us that are not religious, but to take it more seriously because it's a time to pause, to think about the week that passed, the week that it's coming ahead, and just to revigorate yourself for the next week. And we should all do that. It's almost like a meditation kind of moment.
It's a kind of connection. It's a time to connect
with family and friends.
Yeah, the sense of community, it's a bit lost. Life is a bit too fast. Mm-hmm. Families are not as big as you don't have more like 10 cousins. Things are getting fast and short and more impersonal. And there is a lack of sense of community. And I think those Jewish traditions, that bring people and family and friends together, it's almost kind of therapy,
Yeah.
Really, it's this, I think that's the most important, that I like it.
And I think it's beautiful to see. Sonia, I have a question. You're saying white linen, white tablecloth and all, but there is the blue and white also stamped as colors for Jewish colors, no? Or is it more for Hanukkah?
It's the colors of the flag, white, kahal and lavan, that they in Hebrew. And Leo probably knows better Hebrew than I do, but it's the colors of Israel. But the white, it's the symbolism of purity, basically. In Shabbat. But as Leo was saying, is the most important is the time for the family and friends and to be together. And one of the main messages of Judaism is to bring even not only your friends and family, but the ones that need a place to celebrate, to bring people that are alone, that people need a place to be together. It's to bring warmth into.
I think you guys are very welcoming. If you think about, you welcome everyone who is willing and who needs a chance and who needs to be heard. And, sometimes you need a shoulder just to cry. And also in this time, crazy times of pandemic, it's really nice. Like Leo saying, you have a sense of family. You can sit down on Friday night and you can pray and you can read and you can just talk about life and how hard we can.
Well, Nadia, I grew up on Long Island in a very non-religious household. And the most important room in our house was the kitchen. And the kitchen for many Jews is the most important room in the house. It's where the food is. It's where you have your conversations. You talk politics. You talk about family. And many of us are not religious, like in Israel. Many people in Israel are not religious. So for me, growing up on Long Island, which for many people on Long Island, they think it's the center of the world. My exposure to other cultures and religions was when I was 9 years old, when my parents took me to the Epcot theme park in Florida.
Oh, boy.
So it's true, we're welcoming, but we're not exposed to as many different cultures and religions as we should be. Because many of us are sheltered. And that's unfortunate.
Yeah, but John, also sometimes in Brazil too. I mean, technically it's a huge Catholic country, but we welcome other religions too. And I'm sorry, I'm not speaking about the country. I'm just saying sometimes you are sheltered and it's how you grow up, but being exposed to it. And in Brazil, like we were saying before, we have, for some reason, the Jews, the Arabs, the Turks, we all get along, maybe because it's more of immigrants. We relate to immigrants, right? That's how we see each other. And I think that's easier for us to see. But hey, the kitchen is the best room of the house. No questions asked. Okay, we always congregate. And Brazilians tend to congregate in the kitchen. For some reason, I don't understand, but we're all in the kitchen.
In the kibbutz, basically my impression was like people would work 6 hours a day. You have activities, but mostly they would wait for the kitchen to open. Because we had breakfast. I worked for 2 weeks in the kitchen there. And we had breakfast, open for breakfast. At 10 o'clock, we had a little morning tea, whatever. Then we had lunch. Then at 5 o'clock, we had dinner. And then around 7 o'clock, everybody would go to the Mozon or to a little clubhouse where we'd have coffee and cakes. And after this, we would go to underground shelter where they adapt and they did a little disco where they have more drinks than food. So you spend the whole day waiting for the food time. It wasn't a kibbutz, that was Sasa kibbutz in the Golan Heights, and very secular, very secular. They were not religious, but all the traditions, it was a secular reading of the traditions and always around the table. Those traditions we not even need to be religious to appreciate, Remember the Shabbat dinners in the kibbutz? Most of the week, the food would be vegetarian, really good food, but vegetarian. For me, from south of Brazil, I was born eating meat. I ate meat every day of my life till I went traveling. But it was really good vegetarian food. And usually on Shabbat, they would have chickens and vegetables. And I felt really homely, Probably. I know that there is different traditions, and we have Jewish people that follow the Shabbat in many different countries. And I think if you're Sephardim, Ashkenazi, if you come from European countries, you adapt and you bring some dishes and some food, potato and flour dumplings, and things that come from Europe. We adapt. But all the time that I saw, even when I went to friends, to friends' house and had to have a Shabbat dinner or a holiday dinner, the food was nice, was welcoming. I don't know, maybe because I used to hang around with a lot of artists. The people that they were from, or musicians or arts, or the considered left-wingers and the peace movement people. And so they probably had another approach.
Leo, what did the Israelis think of you as a Brazilian in Israel? Because I'm sure there weren't that many Brazilians living in Israel.
At that time, there was a bit of curiosity because I was living really in front of the Damascus Gate for 2 months in the Palestinian area. And they thought, you're crazy to live there. But it was easy, It was, you could feel everything, the tension, the air, But I think they were a bit curious what I was doing in Israel, because they believed that Israel didn't have a very good branding, because all the conflict. But I don't know. I think I felt home. I felt at home.
Very nice. Very nice.
As you were saying, like when you're there and you're living there, you see that people just want, as anybody else, have a good meal, a good time, get together, talk and drink. Actually, Jewish people drink a lot. One of the holidays you're obliged to drink wine between steps of the Passover, which is in April. Yeah, it's marked with the glasses of wine. Not glasses, sips of wine. Sorry.
I don't know what Sonia's talking about. This wasn't in my house, so I'm not sure where she's...
Sean cannot recall his steps from sipping the wine.
He was drunk. There is a lot of wine involved. And as you're saying, Leo, like even though you are like among artists and all this stuff, the spirit, it's the same, is the community, is to get together, is to celebrate life, basically.
But so now on that, Leo, on the celebrating life, then that's how the Jewish New Year comes up, right? So you celebrate, like you're saying, the challah is whole, it's a circle challah bread.
Right.
I've seen braided round. I don't know if it makes a difference, if it doesn't make a difference. I
don't know, to be honest with you. I think most important is to be round.
It's the Sephardic influence on the challah from the Middle East. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, Shawn.
Okay.
Anything Jewish, don't listen to him.
Let's talk about soccer. No, I'm kidding.
No, anything, don't listen to me. Not just about Judaica, anything. No, the challah round because we don't like to cut corners. That's why.
Okay. Also, wait. The pita is also round, right? So when I was in culinary school, and Leo probably heard this too, even the pita bread is round. And also, how the Greek guys love round pitas, but they say you also pass it on the table and around.
Right.
Want to grab a part of it. Do you guys have that tradition?
Yeah, so we trademarked the challah, and the pita was stolen from the trademark.
No. So basically, when you do the prayer of the bread, in the prayer it says that it comes from the earth, things like that. You break the bread in half or a big piece, and then you actually pass along. The next person will take a piece of the bread and eat. So you're sharing your food, which, it comes, and Catholics also, there's the whole thing with bread as well,
because Jesus technically had the miracle of multiplying bread.
The bread. So
I think we had like 1 fish and 5 loaves of bread, or 5 fishes and 1 loaf of bread, and then the whole population ate, or something.
Yeah, talking about fish, that's another traditional thing that we eat, which is called gefilte fish. I don't know if Leo, I don't know if you were able to cook gefilte fish, but it's quite elaborate.
No, I didn't have opportunity.
Yeah, it's made of typically 2 or 3 different fish, 1 fat fish and 2 skinny fish, and you have to grind it and onions and then boil, make a little cake.
An acquired taste.
Yeah, it's a very interesting.
I saw it on the stores. They sell it like pickle. No?
Yes,
They sell it in a jar. My mom has I actually asked her, but since we're going to meet, I asked her for the recipe, and she's like, who are you giving to? I'm like, no, it's not. Don't worry about it. It's okay.
No, I don't know. I don't have any prior experience, so it's going to be fun.
Yeah, but it's an acquired, as Shawn says, an acquired taste because it's a fish smell, but it's not fishy. It's cooked and it's boiled, and then you put like a carrot on the top, and then you eat with grain, which is
just gets better.
Horseradish.
It's no pastel, I'll tell you that.
Or pão de queijo. No
pão de queijo.
I mean, I like it, but because I guess I grew up with it, so every holiday it will have that. But the horseradish, it's mixed with beets, so it gets like red, like blood, and then but it gives also sweetness.
Okay.
To eat together with the gefilte fish.
I never tried this one, to be honest.
So come over.
I heard it's a bit strong. The flavor is,
Yeah, just make sure you're sitting down.
That's funny. Okay, so Sonia, I know we talked about apples and honey, pomegranate, and the fish, but also I was reading about it. Usually you guys eat anything that's whole and like a head of lettuce. That's why you have the fish. You cook the fish complete. No, don't you need like things that are, because you want to have something that's whole, complete.
In Rosh Hashanah, that I don't know. I think it was about like the challah being like round. The honey and apple to symbolize sweet New Year, hopeful and sweet New Year. But that part, I'm not sure. Sorry about my Judaism. I'm not 100% sure. One other dish that we always do in Rosh Hashanah and to break the fast in Yom Kippur, because in Yom Kippur, it's when you fast for 25 hours, basically, from sundown to sundown.
Those are tough days.
No drinking, no eating.
Challenging.
You eat honey cake. So it's a special cake you make and has like cinnamon and honey, and then you break the fast and walnuts, and the smell, it's incredible. So especially when you're hungry. Yeah, when you're hungry, then you have until you're 13 and you become bar mitzvah, you can eat. After that, you can't. So you just smell it and you're craving for it, and then that's how you break the fast with tea and honey cake.
Have you tried to introduce the Brazilian Pão de Mel into that?
In the tradition?
You know how Pão de Mel smells really good, right? It has a chocolate look, but if you make Pão de Mel with the cinnamon and cloves and honey, pure honey, you will smell it way more.
You got a Jewish honey cake right there.
Yes.
Nadia, I suggested something for the high holidays, but I was shot down. I suggested linguiça, and they said absolutely not.
No, absolutely not. No. But I have to look in the high holidays, no linguiça, okay, no prosciutto. And after that, no, I'm kidding. I don't want to be left out of the Jewish community because I suggested linguiça. And
hopefully our rabbi's not listening.
I remember in the kibbutz when I think I was there during the Passover, in one of those special dinners, they did a small table with a lot of symbolic things. Like, there was a roast shank bone, there was like egg, there were like parsley, there were like some bitter herbs, there were like some sweet bread, And they did a little table in the corner, that was like a symbolic thing, of all the exodus and the passage and the coming out of Egypt, and I remember that was there. And I asked it because nobody was eating really. The table was more like over there. They were eating the chicken and the potatoes. But it was that's what's the nice thing, the symbolic thing is with it.
Yeah, you're correct. In Passover, you have the Seder. We have a Seder. It's called Seder is the dinner for Passover. And you have the Seder plate. That particular plate you don't eat, it's there. But throughout the Seder, which is the reading of the Agadah, which is the book of the Seder, you go through all those steps, if you will. So the bitter herbs, you're going to have a pot with like a lot of the bitter herbs and salty water. And everybody's going to get a little piece and eat because we had a bitter life. And then we read about it. And charoset, which is the apple and nuts. They put a little bit of cinnamon also in that plate. which represents the mortar, because building the houses then for the Egyptians as slaves. So that represents all our process and our lives and life in Egypt until we get liberated.
It's interesting because all those traditions, it's almost a way to teach the new generations, to tell this history, and this history and to go to the new generations, in a celebration mood, and it's nice.
Leo, you just said something you're ready to be a Jew, because I tell you why. This week, so I watch now with the Shabbat in Brazil, and the passage of this week that we read, which is the parasha, they call, it's exactly representing what you just said. It's the history. And it was a very interesting passage on the reading, because the Jewish people, like the Europeans, we're not settled in a place for hundreds of years. The Italians, the Germans, Spanish, they have been in that same land for 500 years, 700 years, and the Jewish has been moving around. And the rabbi, there was a discussion about, after the prayers, he always opened for discussion. It was exactly what you're saying, Leo. It's about our land. It's actually our history. So if you're able to pass this history to your next generation, that's what it matters. That's your land. That's your base. So that's interesting.
Being Jewish is more than a religion. Being Jewish is many things that are part of being Jewish. So there was a very famous Israeli president, the first president, David Ben-Gurion, who was once asked, what does it mean to be Jewish? Is it a religion? Is it a culture? What is it? And he responded by saying, it's a feeling. Being Jewish is a feeling. So it's more than a religion. It's more than a culture. And it's all those things. Plus, for him, it was a feeling. So you have the very religious Jewish community and you have the non-religious community. But they're both Jews.
And I don't think they're sometimes too aggressive. I don't know. But that's my feeling as not being one. But I don't feel the aggressiveness towards somebody who is not a Jewish person. Of course, you have the extremists, right? But you're not seeing with bad eyes just because that's not your religion. But I think the fact they respect more the people who are not Jewish just by not being so aggressive and so questioning. That's my feeling as an outsider.
The time that I was there and times that I went back, I was very welcome. And I'm quite polemical. I love history. I love the politics. And so we would sit on those restaurants and bars in Jerusalem, and we'll have big arguments, with about the peace and Palestinian states, and it was a big argument. And never in Israel someone would come and tell me or be aggressive or this. They would say, they just would joke with me and say, I would like to see you defending the same positions in Egypt. And it's I really felt like an open society, democracy. Of course, things that change with time. Is a much more complex reality now. But I always felt really at home. There was a time that I could live easily in Israel, and I think they would confound me. They would never find me out. They will always think that, Israeli, Israeli. Only don't speak Hebrew now, but...
Because it's exactly this feeling of to be Jewish, it's to welcome also the ones that need. So it's a little bit of, the Statue of Liberty, it's like bring your homeless, bring the poorest, and bring the ones that need and free them, because we live through. And that's why those, for instance, what you're saying, Leo, like the Passover that you participated, it's exactly... Every year you go and you tell the whole story. That dinner takes like 3-4 hours technically, because you tell the whole story of passing from being slave and being in the desert for 40 years and getting to the promised land, which when you get to the promised land, it's very clear that Moses at the time makes sure that the next generation will have to welcome anyone that needs, to be welcomed and need a place to be, because that land is not their land, but their history is their land.
Since I went to Israel, it's been like more than 30 years ago, and I didn't know much about the country. And I would spend hours reading the Jerusalem Post. They would put the Jerusalem Post on the corner, for free, all the page. And I would
in English.
In English.
I would stand for 1 hour reading the newspaper, every day. There is not one day since 5 when I went to Israel. There is not one day that I don't read a newspaper in Israel. I signed the Haaretz. It's a kind of, I just finished an online course with the University of Tel Aviv about the modern state of Israel, and a course of Yad Vashem. It's all the time become like addiction. You know, it's like you really get. And I remember a friend of mine, she told me like, you should come and live in Israel. Be Israeli, you know, because it was like she could see that there is a kind of involvement.
So talking about, before we were talking about pita and falafel, you know how before the food truck, sorry guys, I'm moving completely from history to food truck, but when the food truck movement boomed in New York, there has been a guy in the corner of 47th Street for years, and it's Moishes. That guy has the longest line of falafel, Leo. Yeah. He started like in a small carrocinha, you know, like the smallest truck. It's not a truck. It's a trailer. It's something really tiny. He started small. Then when all the food trucks came around, and he got bigger. I've never had a bad falafel from Moishes. For some reason, he's been there. It's just like how there's a Greek guy in Astoria in the corner of Souvlaki selling it for over 30 years too. It is the constant quality. And I think the guys at Moishes, they're very careful about the food and all of it, and they respect. And it's so simple. It's always the falafel. I mean, that's what I get. I get falafel and a pita just because I love pita. But you can have falafel only. Yes, of course. But it's incredible to see how, you know, over the years with everything that's happening, he's been there. I haven't been to the city in the past 6 months to make sure that he's there, but for the past 20 years at least he's been there. I don't know if you guys have been.
Yeah, I've been there many times, and I waited in the line. Before the line, many years ago, the line was much smaller, then it became very large, and it was, as you're saying, like a little cart, sort of a pipoqueiro cart. And then, and then it became bigger, but yeah, it's the quality, standard quality that they keep, but they have a lot of pride in what they cook. They love what they cook. They love to give, not to give because they're selling obviously, but they're proud when you take that first bite and it's like, oh my God, this is heaven.
Falafel in a pita is, I think, is the best snack that you can have. Americans gave hot dogs to the world. Israelis did the falafel in a pita. You can't, you know, it's a winner.
Yeah, you can never go wrong with falafels and a pita.
And shawarma, it's another beautiful thing. That's it's hummus, huh? Hummus, I think. Hummus I've been eating. I used to eat hummus in Abu Shukri in Jerusalem. There's those very old store inside the old city. And this Abu Shukri hummus was even during the worst times of conflict in Jerusalem, Israelis and Palestinians, they would sit in the Abu Shukri because it was the best hummus, you know. It's only hummus. It was hummus with toasted pine nuts on top, and it was pure olive oil. It was beautiful, you know. It was nice.
Yeah, food unites
people. Yes.
Also football.
Soccer.
Yeah, soccer.
Yes. All over the world.
Soccer, sometimes people fight. That hummus, people would go there, no fight. You know? A peace treaty was like a diplomatic area.
Yes.
It's a good way of saying.
It's a good way to say. Guys, sorry, we're running out of time. We would love to be talking more and more, but we want to have more content for the next holiday. So just finishing the high holidays now, we have Rosh Hashanah, we have Yom Kippor. Yom Kippor is the fasting. We get the cake. Then it's Sukkot. And Sukkot is the harvest, no?
Yeah, so it's a celebration of the harvest, which you build basically tabernacle, they call, like a little shed. And you're supposed to eat under that to symbolize the harvest. You're supposed to eat every night under the tabernacle, under this shed that you build. And typically it's festive because all the community or your family build in your house, synagogue, or, you know, and then you eat under there too every night. So also, which is nice because everybody's together. And then the final culmination of it, the end of it,
cherry on the top.
The Simchat Torah. Simcha, it's happy. Torah, it's our book, the Jewish book. And then we all have a big party and we celebrate and hold the Torahs and the year starts.
Oh, that's so nice. So thank you everyone for coming. Thank you you, Sonia. Thank you, Shawn. Thank you, Leo, for being awake at past midnight in New Zealand. We appreciate it. Thank you for our listeners. It's been a great history lesson on food. We can talk for hours, but we're going to have more content next time. And you guys will be back, please, for Hanukkah. You will explain to me, please, the differences, why some people say Hanukkah, why others say Chanukah. And then after that, you come back for Passover, because now I see why we love to drink. And honestly, for Catholics, Easter starts, it doesn't start, but we start on Wednesday before Easter Sunday, right? And then technically we fast, but we don't sip wine. I would love to get that idea into our after Friday fasting. I think we have to adapt, and I think we have to get Saturday into Sunday drinking, just saying.
So Passover, we'll do that. And I'll send you the recipe of the honey cake and see if I find here, I have it, handwritten the gefilte fish. So you can share with whoever you need or want.
Nadia, thank you for letting us talk about our religion with you and with Leo. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Leo, you're welcome to come anytime to cook for us some falafel.
Yes, please. Pita, everything.
My hummus is very nice.
Okay. Leo, also for the listeners. So Sonia is going to give us the recipe for the cake. Leo is going to give us the recipe for the hummus. Okay, now the ball's in your court. We're going to have to sit down and record so people know how to make it, okay? So thank you again, guys, for coming. It's been a pleasure. I'll see you next time.